My daughter chose her husband over me. I walked out. Like and subscribe for continue. The world had never been anything but clear to John Miller in a pair of crisp categories: Emily and everything besides. He didn't ever love anything, and everything was just background, the setting for his one child. She was the sun and the moon and every breath of air he drew. From the second he'd picked her up, a tiny, grizzling, twisting bundle, finding out that his little finger had had one hell of a hold on it. His life had held its sole and solitary obsession. Her mother, Sarah, had departed when Emily was 5. No major drama, just a minor acknowledgement that motherhood was not her calling. John, a being of patient waiting, had received the blow and held fast to Emily. He'd learned to braid hair, bake halfway decent cookies, and interpret the incomprehensible language of a preteen girl's moods. He has worked overtime at the construction company, spared every penny so that Emily could have the best of everything: a good school, piano lessons, summer camps. He had been her mother and father, protector and confidant, staunchest defender and most ardent fan. Emily, in turn, adored him. She had a lifting childhood, lifted by laughter, with weekend hikes and late-night talks where she'd be the one to bare her heart, and he would listen, giving advice that was sometimes uncomfortably honest but swathed in love. He had been there for her achievements. The award certificates tacked to the refrigerator, playing a star role in a school production, getting into a good college. Each year that passed was a tribute to his sacrifice, to how well he had served her. He felt that between them lay something like indestructible metal, the confrontation and the pure love. He was her rock, the support on which everything else rested, and she was his whole world in turn. Then Mark entered. Mark was a guest at John's sister graduation, which is where he met him. He was unremarkable, tall enough, polite enough, but none of the sharp-edged ambition John had pictured in the man who would one day be Emily's partner. Mark was a graphic artist. No one knew quite what that entailed, but it clearly involved computers and pretty pictures. Not the type of job anyone would have thought good enough for Emily, despite the fact she seemed to like him. His eyes were kind, and his laughter was soft, and he loved Emily in a way that shone adoringly, but to John felt more like threat than reverence. "He's great, Dad," Emily said a few weeks later, the serrated edge of her voice hinting that she had been braced when John, probably just a twinge too aggressively, asked Mark about his future career prospects. "Sweet is good. Sweet don't pay the bills in this economy," he'd said in response. "You've worked too hard, you're too smart, and way too vivacious to ever settle merely on comfortable." Emily had bristled. "He's not comfortable, Dad. He's really sweet. He's creative, and we make each other happy." That last part was the sting. "He makes me happy." As if John had not, after all, spent his life doing exactly that. Their relationship deepened rapidly. Dinner invitations were routine. Mark was here more. John tried. He truly did. He'd grill Mark about his design projects, his side interests or hobbies, and his family. He searched for a spark, something to bridge the gap of his disdain. But Mark was reliably earnest, reliably kind, and reliably not the man John had dreamed about. It's almost as if he was treating Mark as a placeholder, as nothing more than an infatuation due. Surely Emily would shake herself and realize that Mark was no catch. The proposal came a year later, one quiet evening on Lake Cayuga. "Babe," she used my name, "I'm engaged." Thread Emily's left hand glittered with a diamond in the blurry photo. She texted, all 5 fingers on deck. At dinner when we saw it. "We're getting married, Dad. Can you believe it?" A cold horror coiled in John's belly. "Married? Emily, are you sure? It's awfully fast, isn't it?" You're too young. You have your whole life ahead of you, and your career. I love him, Dad. She broke in, and the bubble was gone now. It had burst to reveal a tiredness that pained him. And I'm not that young. I'm 27. We've been together for 2 years. 2 years ain't a lifetime, Em. You deserve a lifetime. A friend for life, someone that can truly take care of you, value you, and help you then be all that you can be. If anything, he heard the veiled accusation in his own words, the little hint that Mark could never do any of those things. What followed for the next few months was a torturous unwinding of their relationship. Wedding planning became a minefield. Emily would show him samples of dresses, possible venues, and John would try to passive-aggressively shoot it down. That color is so not you, Em. Is that the best Mark can do for you? And surely you don't seriously think you can set your sights on something so ordinary? Emily, ever accommodating, began to resist. Dad, it's our wedding, not yours. It's your life, Emily. He'd explode, the pent-up exasperation at last eating through his meticulously tacked-up facade of worry. And I'm just trying to make it so you don't mess up and regret, he said. He watched hurt start to fill her eyes, the distance grow. Knew he made her, but could not help himself. He loved her too much to allow for what, in his view, would have been a monumental mistake. He was sure, with every bit of his cloth, that she will thank him. He was saving her. The arguments escalated. Refusing to discuss the wedding, he would pivot quickly or chew on Mark's most recent graphic design project. To his credit, he kept his expression mostly outwardly stoic, but John could see a brewing tension there. Why you hate him so much, Dad? Do you understand why I did that? Emily would later ask, her voice hoarse. Weeks before the wedding, they were in the living room. Wedding invitations spread on the coffee table as evidence of how far they had come. I don't want to feel this way. I know he's terrible, Emily, John said, bringing force of will as a stand-in for cool-headedness he didn't have. I just don't think he's well enough for you. He's not ambitious. He's not driven. He won't drive you. You deserve a man who will lift you up, not a man who's okay plodding through. Emily's face crumpled. He does challenge me. He makes me feel safe. He knows the person that I am, not the one you act like. Why can't you just be happy for me? Because I love you. That's what your brother is. Yeah, and I hope to God he eats you first. John yelled, leaping up from his armchair. And don't I get anything in return for having given all of that up for you? I gave up my life, my relationships, even my own opportunities, so you could have every chance. And this is how you repay me? Wasting it all on this. He gestured vaguely, dismissively. The air made no reply, burdened with the weight of what he was saying. Emily looked at him, her eyes flaring with disbelief and pain. Repay you, she whispered. Is that what this is, Dad? A debt. There was a lurch of sickening realization in the pit of John's stomach. He hadn't meant it to come out like that. He'd meant to demonstrate his depth of fealty, the girth of his love. But it would be ugly, twisted. No, Em, of course not. I want you to be really happy. You want me to be happy your way, she corrected, her tone frosty with a touch of bitterness. You want me to pick someone you like. You want me to be what you believe should be. But Dad, that's not my life. It's mine, and I choose Mark. He stood there, stunned. He had poked, he had threatened, he had tried to wheedle, but until now he hadn't quite believed she'd defy him. Not him. So that's it then? John's tone was low and plaintive, and he trembled with rage laced with mounting desperation. You choose him, over me. Emily shut her eyes, a single tear sliding down her cheek. When she opened them again, they were resolute. I choose my future, Dad. I choose the man I love. It's not you against them. It's about choosing for myself. Her voice broke then. I want you there. I want your blessing. More than anything. But I won't give him up. It was as if he had been punched by the words, and he withdrew. He was struck by a sudden, stabbing pain in his chest, a feeling of betrayal so strong that he gagged. All those years, all those sacrifices, all that dedication and love for nothing. For Mark, for this unassuming, ordinary man. Then I can't come, John said, the words sour in his mouth. He felt numb, and yet so alive with a boiling anger and bottomless despair. You pick him if you're going to pick him. And I can't. I can't fake it, Like this is what I want for you. Upon him, aided by the absence now of Emily's laughter, her music, the simple fact of her. He would eat alone, watch TV alone, and go to bed alone. He doubled down, and on a binge of workaholism, working longer hours and taking the dirtiest, riskiest jobs. The exertion of his muscles was a welcome distraction, a way to help forget the dull ache in his chest. Friends and former colleagues, even a few distant relatives, tried to intervene. John, she's your daughter, they'd say gently. You can't just cut her out. She decided. He'd inevitably retort, the steel of his voice palpable. She chose him. He became a hermetic old man, grizzled further by distance. He missed Emily more than he would have believed, longed to see her in a way that went far, deep and wide beyond just missing longing for the girl these past 2 years, when, though the hurt had brought him close often enough to tears, too groggy was practically maybe weakened after crying all damn night before going up to bed. He would catch himself reaching for his phone to share that funny thing he'd seen that morning with her, or tell her about a work project, and freeze with his hand halfway to the sky as he remembered. Mark, he heard through mutual friends, who somehow found the way to not talk about it, was okay. Emily was happy. She was thriving, creating her own life, a life that John had no part in. It was a bitter kind of knowledge. Yes, he wanted her to be happy, but not without him, not in spite of him. A year and a half after he had walked out, John sat in darkness in his living room. Now the TV was speaking to him. He was looking at a photograph of Emily on the mantelpiece, laughing, 10 years old, her arm around his neck, making a mess with an imperfect smile beaming some kind of light. It was a picture from one of their many hiking trips, a day bathed in sunshine and exchanged confidences. Back then he didn't see that in her eyes, the unconditional love. And he remembered his own. And what he remembered, as though seeing her for the first time, was a fierce tenderness that was all about protecting, which had always been the motive of his emotions toward her. He had simply loved her so much, wanted it all so much for her, that in the end he'd suffocated her. He confused love with ownership, direction with control. Perhaps he had desired her happiness, indeed, but only in such fashion as he had conceived of it. He recalled her face, tear-streaked, and recalling again that plea that she had whispered, "This is not about choosing over you. It's about choosing for myself." His declarations were resonating now, unfettered by anger and hurt. She had not repudiated him. She had proclaimed herself. When she had been young, she'd said that she was going to live her life, not his. And his response? To walk out, to punish her, to lose her like her mother in another way. It hit him like a punch in the stomach. He was the one who had promised never to leave her, and he had broken it. He had abandoned her when she needed him most, the day she started over. His pride, that stubborn brute of a thing, had devoured their marriage. It left him lonely, shut off, bitter. And for what? So he could be right. His victory was hollowness, and he knew its weight. He picked it up trembling. As he scrolled through his contacts, he paused on Emily's name, at which point his thumb hovered. He hadn't called her in nearly a year and a half. What would he even say? Sorry? For what? For everything? He put the phone down. He couldn't. Not yet. I felt that the apology was just too large, cumbersome. There had to be something more he was supposed to do. He started small. He discovered the old photos, the ones he'd hidden in a fit of pique. He looked at them, not with fury or hate, but with growing tenderness. He allowed himself to miss her, really miss her, without the armor of anger. A few weeks later, a small package came to Emily's old address, rerouted to her new home. It was not a letter, however, it was well wrapped up. It was a small wooden carving of a father and daughter holding hands that he had started years ago but never finished. Now it was done, polished and smooth. She might not even come. He could not say. He did not know if she would take him back. He wasn't sure she would even respond. But it was a start. Above, a tiny wooden bridge over the chasm of a hole he had burned. He had walked out once. He had to fight his way back into the life. Not as the father who demanded obedience, but as the father who merely loved. And a very long time later, John Miller found hope, just a glimmer of it, resting heavy on the big, empty quiet of his world. He knew it was a long road, strewn with the debris of his own creation. But at last, he was going to be able to walk it,